everyone. I spoke about in my last video how it was important that if we are going to believe in something so much, that not only are we going to die for those beliefs, we are going to defend those beliefs. We're going to kill for it. We're going to condemn for it. We are going to judge for it. We are going to war for it. If we are going to do all of those things, most fanatic, if we're going to do all of those things, then we better be right. We better have gotten our information correct. Because otherwise that means that we're willing to die and kill and condemn and judge for a lie, for untruth. And what vanity is there when something is destroyed because of an error? We had better be right in all of our belief systems. My contention is that we have been wrong. We have been wrong because we have gone by the information of the most recent of history. We have failed to understand that in order for me to know where I come from, I need to go back in my ancestral tree as far as I can to the root. In order for me to understand myself, my journey, the journey of my family, I need to go back as far as I can. You see, if I just went to my mother, I'd be lacking information on her, on me, on who we are, our journey on the planet, our story. I'd be lacking the full information. And in fact, when I asked my mother or father about our family, stories that were told about our grandmother, our grandfather, they don't know. They have very limited information on those details that I feel essential to understand my ancestral tree. And so because of that, I always say I wish my grandparents were alive. Why? Because my grandparents are going to have more of an authentic recollection and memory of all of the information and details that my parents lack in providing me with information on my family tree. And so before that, before my grandparents, my great-great-parents will know the story. Great-great-grandparents will know the story. And after that, I'll learn more. The further back I go, the more information and details I will have to understand that when I am seeing my family tree, that I understand its root. And therefore, based on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, my mother, my father, my grandparents, my great-great-grandparents, I'm going to get the true history of my family. But if I go just to my parents, I will be lacking in information. And so this is my contention for religion and belief. We have just gone to our parents. We have gone to the baby of the tree. We've gone to the leaves and the limbs of the tree rather than going to the root of the tree. And based on this knowledge or this belief system that we believe we have found by just going to the leaves and the limbs of the tree, we are lacking full detail, full information, and yet we still believe. Yet we still kill. Yet we still condemn and judge. Well, my goal is to take you to the root of the tree of humanity. Take you to the source of all information. Where did it all begin? Did it just begin with our Bible, which tells us that the chronology is 6,000 to 7,000 years that man has been on the planet since Adam and Eve? Some say 12,000 years, that the Bible gives us information on what happened 6,000 years before Adam and Eve came on the planet. Creation of the heavens and the earth and all of those things. Some give it an estimation of only 12,000 years. The question is, does that make sense to you? Does that make sense to any of us? You see, the Bible, is it a good witness for itself when it gives you the chronology of 12,000 years or less? What I find intriguing and what really made me delve into this information, I had this question for years, and then finally when I started to dig, it just did not make sense. You see, the Bible tells us in the book of Genesis, it tells us that the gold was good. Oh no, this thing sucks. And so based on the information that we gather from the Bible, it gives us a history of, some say, 12,000 years of mankind. And like going to your ancestors, your mother's mother, your father's mother, and back and back and back for the details of information, where you originate from, we have to apply the same to the Bible. But the Bible, again, as I had mentioned, there was something that always made me question the chronology that the Bible gives of 12,000 years or less. I knew that it couldn't be possible. Not only was it contrary to what we have unearthed on the planet, as far as artifacts and histories that go back that are written on stone, not only that, but I would look at the fact that the Bible tells us in the book of Genesis that the gold was good. How long does it take for gold to reach its maturation state? It takes hundreds of thousands of years for that to transpire, for that to take place. Not only that, but the very crystals that are in the earth. If you study crystals, you understand that it takes hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years for it to reach its maturation, for us to even benefit from its use, and for it to become a commodity. You see, if gold could only be made in 12,000 years or less, 6,000 to 7,000 years of man being on the earth, according to the Bible, then it would no longer be something that we cherish, because there would be so much of an abundance of it. It would not be scarce on the planet. So the gold being good is already indicative of the fact that the 12,000 or less year history that the Bible gives us cannot be accurate. Therefore, it tells us that this is not the root of our ancestry as far as the collective humanity, but it is only the top of the tree, the branches, the leaves. What is the root before the Bible? What are the witnesses that give us history before the Bible was even on the planet? You see, the Bible makes a claim. It says, in the beginning. The beginning of what? If it's only 12,000 years or less of a history, then it can only be in the beginning of something and not the beginning of the root. The book of Genesis also tells us another thing. It tells Adam and Eve to replenish the earth, which tells us that if it's replenished, that means that something came before the replenishing, that it had to be done all over again. So my contention is that the Bible is giving a history based on something that occurred after something before. The earth was replenished by Adam and Eve. What was before it was replenished? In order for us to understand that, we must go to the history of mankind, which is the root. What is the oldest living source or oldest source of information that we have on the planet? We already know that it cannot be Islam or the Quran as far as beliefs and holy books go. It cannot be the Quran, because the Quran even tells us, Islam, that it comes from the Bible. It tells us that the Arabs or Ishmael seed would now become the chosen seed, because the biblical Israelites went against the law of the God of the Bible. And so because they went against the law of the Bible, Islam claims to now be the chosen seed. So Islam already is telling us that it is no longer a factor in the root of the tree. It is not a witness that is verifiable information as far as what began in the beginning of mankind's history. So we can get rid of Islam. Christianity is an offshoot of Judaism. It comes after the Old Testament of the Bible. So therefore, Christianity testifies to us that it is not the root of the tree nor the origin. And so now we are left with Judaism, which tells us in the Old Testament that in the beginning, 12,000 years or less, was the beginning of mankind's history. But then it also tells us that Adam had to replenish the earth. So it is giving us testimony of details that shows us that this is not the beginning of our root or our ancestral tree as collective humanity goes. So what is it that we have to do in order to find out what was before the replenishing of the earth? We must go to all the other cultures that have artifacts that tell us of dates prior to your biblical Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. We found testimony in Mesoamerica that dates back further than the Bible. We found testimony in Babylon that dates further than the Bible. Before Babylon, we have Egypt that testifies as a witness. In fact, many of the things on the pyramids and the hieroglyphics show us details that the Bible emulates. It speaks of a Savior. It speaks of a God and the Son, the S-U-N, which we in the Christianity have turned into the S-O-N. So therefore, in order for us to find out what came before Judaism, Babylon is testifying as a witness. Mesoamerica is giving us information. Egypt is giving us information. And before this, we find deeper roots in the tree of humanity. We find Akkad, and the root of the tree we find the oldest written on stones of information. Before writing even came onto the planet, there's a testifier that tells us of Sumer, the Sumerians. What do they have to tell us since they are at the bottom here of the tree? What is it? What information do they provide in order for us to find out the beliefs of humanity and our common ancestry as far as belief? Where did all of the belief above the tree come from? My contention is we need to go down here. We need to go down to Sumer and Egypt and Babylon and let them tell us a story that we have never heard before. And when we do go down to Sumer and Egypt and Babylon, it tells us details like our great-great-great-great-grandfather or grandmother. It tells us detail that the Bible, 12,000 years or less of history, does not give us. And so when someone tells me the history of my family, I do not want to hear it from the most recent of ancestors. I want to go back to the root of the tree and get all the details. In fact, Sumer tells us why the gold was good. Why was the gold so important? Sumer tells us why the earth was replenished. What are the details that Sumer has to testify and tell us? That's the root that I will be sharing with you. This is an important testifier in the events and the history of mankind. In fact, your biblical stories come back here to Egypt, to Babylon, and Sumer. Why have you not gone there to find out the information and the details that your 12,000-year-old Bible does not provide you? These are the things that I will be going into. Almost all sources of belief and history traces back here down the tree. There is more below the tree, but the only written history that we have right now, the only history that we can go as far back as, is Sumer, Babylon, and Egypt. Why haven't you done that? I've done that. And so I want to continue to share this with you all, and I will be building on it and show you where things that we have today within our society, how it is that we have them. And this is why we have them. This is why belief is so prominent in the world, is because of these roots. What are those belief systems? What are those stories and details that you have been left without, but you still believe and you judge and you kill for? We're going to find that out. Take care, and I will be back building. Bye.